Welcome to I Take Your Point, where John and I unpack cultural tension, talk, and social media firestorms that shape our world. In this very first episode, we break down RG3's comments on Angel Reese, the subtle but heavily coded language that sparked Ryan Clark's fiery rebuttal, and the deeper fractions in how Black men and Black women view protection, loyalty, and respect. We challenge each other, recognize our blind spots, and truly listen. Because sometimes the most radical thing you can say is, I take your point.
John, thank you for meeting with me today. I am adjective to have you with me. So I don't know if I'm excited, if I'm terrified, if I'm whatever. So TBD. But I am happy to have you here. And how can I correct you today? What should we talk about?
Well, first of all, I'm sure you're excited. I'm sure you're ecstatic. I'm sure you're over the moon to be having this conversation with me.
Strong adjectives.
I know how exciting it can be to have conversations with someone like me. So I want to make certain that we address that off the bat. It is also a pleasure to have conversations with someone like you. And more importantly, it's important that the audience knows that this is a conversation that has been going on for quite a while in terms of me schooling you on a number of things and me correcting you to be corrected. I think part of the relationship that we've developed has been more about you sitting at the foot of the master sometimes and understanding.
So you're having, I just want to make sure that I'm just on the same page as you. You're having an outer body experience right now. Is that what's happening? Right? Need to call someone. I don't know. What's happening here?
Call whomever you want to. I'm just stating facts. And
it just seems like maybe you were walking today.
Let the record reflect.
Stroke. Is it hot in Atlanta? I don't know what's happening. What's going on?
Help me. Let the record reflect that the majority of the conversations that we have more likely than not, probably about 90% of the time, I end up being the individual who's correct on the majority of the issues that we discuss. So
sure, when you have those conversations with the voices in your head, yes, you are correct.
So that said, again, I'm looking forward to having this conversation about a number of topics, and we'll just jump right in.
Sure.
A couple of weeks ago, in a podcast group that I have been moderating about 8 years now, it's called the Social Media Ecosystem private group on Facebook. One of the things that we posted about was a meme that had depicted a what some took as an offensive meme toward Black women, and the depiction of a Black man. On the Black woman's side, it had she wanted all these attributes, whether it was a good job, good in bed, great provider, yada, 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 yada. In his side, he just said, all I want is peace. And we posted it on the board, and the comments in and of themselves were very controversial to some of the members. And full disclosure, the SME is made up over 4,000 groups, 4,000 in the group, and the majority of 65% of the group is probably African American, with a large contingent of that African American base being Black females, and it came off as if A, I was being insensitive, B, that it was buying into the trope that Black men aren't there for Black women, and C, that it wasn't a great depiction of the Black family in some ways, and saying, okay, you had this guy who was asking, or this guy just wanted peace, and you had the angry Black woman trope. And so, obviously, I disagreed, but I understood.
Did you?
I think I did. Understood that, how that could be received. Now, table that or parlay that into the conversation that was happening this week around social media with respect to Ryan Clark, who's a fellow member of the greatest fraternity in the United States, and that's Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. and Robert Griffin Jr. III, both of them former professional athletes. And the issues were stemming from Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark and a hard foul that was
Hmm.
committed against Angel Reese by Caitlin Clark. And I think anyone who's played sports, of which, I have, I know that you're never been a sports person because your
Okay.
activity is sort of limited. I think
Okay.
the point was that within sports, things like that happen.
Hmm.
I think what drew the ire of a lot of people was the way that RG3 characterized the incident as Angel Reese hating on
Hmm.
Clark.
Hmm.
And it sort of fed again into that angry black woman type thing where
Right.
Angel Reese, even though she was the victim in this
Hmm.
in this instance, was perceived by him and categorized by him as a villain. Ryan
Hmm.
Clark took issue with that. And
Hmm.
part of what he said was, um, with his history, full disclosure, they do have a history. Ryan Clark and RG3 were teammates at one particular point, so there's that history there. But the other thing was that Clark RC said that because of the choices that Ryan or that Robert Griffin III had made with his partners in life, two marriages, all of them to individuals who were white women. He indicated that RG3 wasn't having conversations that pertain to how to protect Black women or the betterment of Black women in RG3's household because the person that he was laying next to wasn't a woman of color.
Hmm.
And, when he said that, then obviously three got upset because he thought he was talking about his wife and talking about his family. And, he made something about him having a glass of lovely milk or something of that sort. I assume he was talking about his wife. I say all that to say the larger discussion that I want to talk about is the perception that Black men um, have not been or aren't as protective of Black women as some Black women would want them to be. And you said that to
Hmm.
me a couple of times. Uh,
Hmm.
so I push back on that because
Hmm.
I do think that there has to be some shared accountability in terms of understanding that yes, we can be there for you.
Hmm.
At the same time, we can also call out things that may be, you may not be in agreement to. What say you about that?
No, I agree with everything you said. In a different universe. No, I do not. I believe that for the majority, and there are some Black men that actually do stand up and show up for Black women, and I'm hoping that I'm raising my sons to be that. But in the case of that meme that you shared, when we think about that, we think about that Black women are the most unprotected class. There's no one showing up for us at the boardroom. Hopefully in the bedroom they are, but for the majority they're not. And so when you talk about like this concept of emotional safety, and you're talking about your group, and you post a meme like that, when you gave the demographic, it's the majority are Black women. There has to be some accountability for you or whomever your moderators are to create a space of emotional safety for our Black women, right? So we don't get to be ourselves anywhere without it becoming some type of stereotype for us. Maybe we are angry. Sometimes I'm mad. And if I'm mad, I'm mad. I can have those emotions. That doesn't automatically mean that now, oh, I'm some kind of crazy person. Okay, maybe I am, but some kind of crazy person. And then now I need to, I don't know, maybe that's going to be associated with all Black women, that we're all angry. We all can't process things because we are so emotional. Okay, people are emotional. That's okay. White women are emotional. They don't become angry white women. I've never heard of this term before. Why is it associated with us?
Well, I think a couple things can be true. It can be true
Mm,
that yeah, traditionally, I think most Black folk would say that Black women have been the backbone of the Black family.
They are. And so you think about that we're expected to ride for Black men. And we talked about this in a couple of episodes that we love Black men, whether we choose to partner with them or not. We have brothers, we have uncles, we have fathers, and we're always there for you. We're expected to protest. We're expected to defend you. We're supposed to hold you down, to heal you. Regardless of who you choose as a partner, as a Black woman, we're expected to do that. When we need that same safety, that emotional safety, you're not always there for us.
Yeah, you know what? Okay. I will concede that there are times that Black men have not been as supportive of Black women as we should have been. Whether it's in the positions of what RG3 said um about Angel Reese, or whether it's, Black men supporting MVP to be POTUS and not at the higher percentage that Black women did. I
Mhm.
think that those arguments can be made. At the same time, I also believe there has to be space for us to have conversations about two things being true. We can say that, okay, Black men have done a shitty job in some aspects, but we not also say that in some aspects, you have to be able to call out maybe some things that Black women are doing that aren't viewed in a positive light. For instance, the
Okay.
meme that we talked about,
Yes.
where we have an individual who may be asking for the the world,
Mm-hmm.
good job,
Mm-hmm.
six figures, great credit, great in bed, loves his mama, can cook, can take care of the house, can pay all
Sure.
the bills, but all she's bringing to the table is a smile.
Okay, so this whole bringing to the table thing, I take
All
issue
right.
with that because
Okay.
as a man, and I'm just going to say this, but I'm not a man, but as a
Mhm.
man, you want someone with great breasts, nice ass. Are you bringing that to the
I'm a,
table?
I'm a leg man, so
I don't care what you are. Are you bringing it to the table? And whatever this
uh,
table is, those
great
are the things
breast.
that you want, right? So those are the
Well,
things that you
those are
want.
those are nice to haves. They're
They're
not want.
nice to have.
Yeah.
They're wants. Wants are nice to have.
Okay.
Needs are different
Yeah.
than wants.
Okay.
Right?
I
So
agree with that.
you
Yeah.
like a woman, oh, why and I hear this all the time. Well, why don't you smile more? Why don't you smile more?
Well, okay. Okay. So okay. I'll be the first to admit there's some things that I say that are borderline sexist and at times
Some
sexist.
things? Oh, okay. Wow. Okay. Audience, please take a poll.
I'm sorry. So
What
yeah,
is your definition of some things?
at times I have been considered a Neanderthal in some of the things that I've said, and I own that.
Yes.
I put,
And you
put
need
that.
to check yourself on that because you are in a
Yeah.
position where you can amplify your voice and you can change the narrative. Just because things have been this way in the past doesn't mean it needs to continue that way. We're
Okay,
asking you,
but
Black
okay,
men,
but
show
I
up for
hold on,
us.
hold on, hold on. Okay, again, but I push back on the fact that you may take issue with what are you bringing to the table,
I
but
do.
it's a partnership, and that partnership, yes, involves me, yes, sometimes doing some of the heavy lifting and being supported by you, and at the same time, you
Hmm.
doing some of the heavy lifting and me supporting you. But for someone, I get that if the conversation is, I want someone to come to the table with these things that I may not have because I want to aspire to have better and do better, that's
Yes.
a different conversation than I want someone to have these things because I deserve them.
Okay, so right, here's the thing though. I think that it might be the definition and what we value. I
Mhm.
don't particularly care at this stage in my life about a partnership because I don't need someone to financially support me. I don't need someone to take care of my children. I don't need to build, right? So I've already done that. I've already acquired that. So when I'm looking for a partner, I'm looking for someone that's going to complement me. I don't need you to do anything. If you're not, for me, it's we have a good conversation, an easy conversation where we can do things together. But I don't need you to bring anything to a table. Nothing. Because I have my own
disagree
table
with
and I
that.
have my own
But
thing.
I disagree with that because
Okay, because I don't care about partnerships. I care about a relationship. I
well,
don't
so
care about a
relationships.
partnership.
Every relationship is a partnership.
Okay, well, that's your opinion because you're looking at it from
What
a
do you mean, my
business
opinion?
transaction.
Every relationship is
No,
a
no,
partnership.
that's your opinion. I don't have the same opinion you would. You know what?
Because
Here's
you're
the thing.
wrong.
No, I'm not wrong. You're wrong. You're looking at it from a business standpoint. Like everything about you is transactional business.
Everything
Oh,
is not. It is
yes,
not
it is.
transactional.
Everything is
It,
a
it is.
business with you. I'm
It
looking
is
at it
not.
from emotional side. You're very logical, and
Hmm.
that's okay because we need diversity. So you're
Hmm.
going to be logical, and you're going to look at things like, okay, if I did this, and I'm going to acquire this. I'm thinking, at the end of the day, I want somebody that's going to make me laugh, that's going to
Hmm.
show up for me. I don't need your money. I don't need your status. I don't need any of that because I'm a
But
complete.
laughter doesn't pay the bills.
But here's the
Laughter
thing, though.
keeps you
I can pay my
rolling.
own bills. I need you to come whole and grown to me. I'm gonna come the
But hold
same way to
on. But
you. I don't
okay.
need you
Okay.
to complete
Okay.
me.
Okay. Oh
Come
well.
whole and grown. You don't need. I'm not gonna be giving you anything. If you ain't a grown ass man, then you lose my number.
Okay. All right. I take your point with
As well,
respect
you
to
should.
as well. Again, give an inch and she takes a mile. I can't even.
Mm-hmm.
So I take your point with respect to what it is that you may like in a
Mm-hmm.
partner.
Sure.
Um, that said, I think that if I'm speaking and I'm standing in for black men here because I'm the only black male that's on this conversation right
And I'll
now.
stand in for black women. Sorry, ladies.
Yes. So from that standpoint, at times there still has to be space to have the conversation when we can't make the argument as black folk to white people that when we make a blanket statement about how white folk do X, Y, and Z, and then we go, well, not all white folk, and we understand that it's not all white folk,
Of
and you
course.
shouldn't be offended if it's not pertaining to you. But at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, turn around, if I post a meme
Mm-hmm.
and that meme has some characteristics that do not pertain to you,
Mm-hmm.
you can't then get mad and say, okay, well, you can't say this. Well, it doesn't pertain to you. You're not in this category.
But John, here's the thing. You think about it, where did that narrative come from? Where did it come from?
well,
The
yeah,
narrative
yeah,
of Black women being angry, being bitter, being loud. Okay, I'm a little loud on this podcast. Who cares?
yeah. You're a little loud in general.
Yeah, I'm
When
just
you're
loud.
angry,
I'm
most of the time
passionate.
when I talk
I'm
to
just
you,
passionate. I'm a passionate
so
person.
you're not a good. You're literally not because you're always angry and loud.
I'm not
So
angry. I'm just excited. And so I'm gonna be excited. But if you think about all of those attributes that we can deem as negative, where did that come from? It came from white society. And we're saying, stop. Think about it. And why would you continue to promote this narrative that you know doesn't represent the Black women in your life? Right?
okay, so
Why would you
here's
do
okay,
that?
so here's where I'm going to push back on that, son, because here's where I have a problem with that, and this is the logical part of me. The logical part in me says I understand that for every meme, for every stereotype, there is a grain of truth there. And
Okay.
and that grain of truth sometimes, that grain of truth sometimes can be difficult to take in and
John,
understand.
it's a grain of truth that's arbitrary because again, it's feeding into the biases. And so you're saying that the black women are angry, that our black women are bitter. So you should kind of look at the no, I'm pushing back and saying, no, you're buying into a bias that was provided to you by white society.
Hmm.
You know that's not true. You know it's not true. And
Yes, yes, but
you have a responsibility as someone that has a group of people and you have a voice to do better. From the words of the great Melania, be best. Okay, she's not great, but she did say
see,
something.
the fact that you would quote a white woman
Be best.
be best on a
That was
podcast.
literally the only thing that she said that was
Wow, wow. You
outrageous.
could have used Michelle Obama. You could have
Well,
used
because
Oprah.
Michelle Obama is
You could have
you
said,
go low and or you go low, you go high. When you go low, I'm getting down in the mud with you. So I don't believe in this go high nonsense. You want to
anyway.
fight? Let's
So,
do it.
all right. So I will concede and I will make this argument for you. Because sometimes I make your argument. for you better than you make your argument.
Mm-hmm.
And that's me being sexist when I say that.
No, really? Everybody got that.
So when I say that traditionally what has happened with Black folk is we always answer for the collective.
Mm.
And we always think of it from the standpoint that Coretta can't just do, or Lynn can't just do Lynn. She
Mm-hmm.
represents all Black women,
Right.
Black women of a certain age. John just can't
Right.
represent John because he represents
Right.
X, Y, and Z. And we just can't be an individual. We have to be
Right.
collective. And we
Absolutely.
tend to
Yes.
think collectively
Yes.
and about the collective. And so
And
I
go
take
ahead.
the
And
point,
yeah, go ahead. I'm
I
sorry.
take the point that Black women will say, even if this meme is true for some of the sisters,
Maybe.
we have to protect all of us because they will
Mm.
lump us all in and it will impact us all.
It
So,
does impact us
okay,
all.
so
Yes.
if that's the conversation that we're having, if that's how you're coming to me with it,
Mm-hmm.
then I can say, okay, I get that. I have to then be best or be better, to paraphrase you and your role model, Melania Trump. So I can buy that argument if you come to me there, because then you come to me with a logical understanding.
But I shouldn't have to educate you as a
Well,
man from the great university cult that you've gone to.
first
You
of all,
should know
when
that.
you say when you refer to
Again, you're
Mecca,
asking us as a
when you
Black
refer
woman
to
to
when you
educate
refer
you,
to
to
the
hold you down.
what we're not
Learn,
going to
do
do,
the
but
work yourself. I'm not going
yeah.
to, you're a grown ass man. I don't need to think for you.
Again, what we're not going to do is you take shots at the great Howard University here, and you're going to show
Your cult, yes.
you're going to show back to Mecca. So I take the point in terms of what you said and how we have to do better. I think there's another part that, and I got to credit that great philosopher, um, Cam Newton, for
Mm.
what he said about the underlying issue with what RG3 said. And I think this is pertaining to both you and I in a
Mm.
way that, maybe we can discuss it in another podcast.
Mhm.
One of the things that came up in the SME with respect to the pushback on the meme was a sister who posted that it was odd for me as a Black man married to a white woman to post that meme because I was married to or am married to who I'm married to. And there's this belief that if you marry someone outside your race, that for whatever reason you forfeit your Blackness or you forfeit the ability to have a conversation or an opinion.
I think that it doesn't forfeit because you know that my ex-husband is white. I
Yeah.
don't think it forfeits it, but I think that you need to be more mindful. So, and I can say I'm speaking for myself that sometimes I'll have conversations and it's framed from this pillow talk that we've had in the bedroom. And so my pillow talk with a white man is going to be a little bit different than my pillow talk with a Black man, right? So there are things I have to pause and explain to my white partner where I wouldn't have to pause with my Black partner. So it's going to color my perception. Whether you believe it or not, it does. And so you need to think, pause, think, how is this going to be received? Because believe it or not, who you spend your time with in the bed does influence how you're showing up in society. It just does. Your conversations are different.
I take issue with that.
Okay, so then, okay, how are you going to take issue with it if you're married to a white woman? You're going to have the exact same conversation that you're going to have with a Black woman. So
No,
she's going to come home and say, I found a
no,
microaggression. Okay,
no,
what
no,
was
you're
it?
not. You're not. And okay, so let me rephrase that. I will say that if you are your authentic self, your authentic self is going to shine through with respect to your household. And I'll say this. anyone who's been in a biracial relationship or a biracial household understands that you are, if you're depending upon depending on the household, it can either skew black or it can skew on the white side. Meaning that if I have three kids that are biracial, okay, by definition, if I'm married to a black person or Asian person, they're going to have a point of view that is primarily shaped by how it is that the world sees them. So the conversations that we have can be of more cultural significance
Mm-hmm.
for navigating those spaces
Mm-hmm.
than if I was the only black person in a household of white folk. So there are some conversations that take place. Now, if the argument is, am I going to have conversations the same way with a black woman about microaggressions that I would with someone who's non-black? No, that I would be.
And that's what I'm saying. And so there are going to be certain topics, there are going to be certain things that you either have to pause and educate your partner on and re-educate them on because they're like, are you sure? Yes, I'm confident. You're not going to have that with someone that's going to be, that looks like you. You're just not. And so what
Yes.
I'm saying is that when you enter into those conversations, pause, make sure that what you're saying is going to be received the way that you intend, because it is going to be colored by who you share your bed with.
So, but the conversation, I take your point on that, and I agree with it having an impact. I think the problem that I have, and again, the great philosopher Cam Newton, football player, said this. He said, and I want to paraphrase him, that even though we don't speak on it a lot as black people, when we look at someone who marries a white person or an Asian person or a Latino person, we don't revoke their black card, but we add some demerits to it because there's some things that we may not like for them to talk about because they elected to marry someone
Yes.
out of
It's
color.
because when you, again, that pillow talk is going to be completely different. And so that person is going to share their perspective and it's going to impact and influence your perspective, whether you believe it or not. And so when you have those conversations, you're bringing that pillow talk into that conversation. And we're like, hold up. Okay, not me, because I also dated somebody anyway, but hold up that think about what you're saying. And then for me, it's been a lot of self-reflection since my divorce. Like, why do I think that way? Well, because the conversations I had were different. They were completely different.
Yeah, again, and I've said this now 5 times, so maybe we need to rename the podcast. I take your point. Um,
Oh my gosh, wait, I just want to pause for the audience. Again, how would you like to be corrected today, sir? Go on.
so with respect to that, I think the larger conversation that I have, and maybe this is something that requires me to do some self-reflection on my part, because me being the evolved man that I
Oh,
am, and
ooh.
not the caveman that you think
And
I
so not
am.
only do you have heat stroke, you got hit by lightning. I love this for
I could,
you.
I could actually do some self-reflection. And what
Mm.
that means is, are there things that I need to be mindful of? And I hear you saying that there are, that because of who I am or who married, I don't have, I need to be better at reading the room in terms of saying certain things.
That's what I'm saying.
And
Yes. And I
that,
think that, I say that from my own journey, right? And because I did do a lot of self-reflection, a lot of therapy. Why did I think this way? Why do I show up this way? Well, because I was engaged with somebody that gave me their perspective for 20 years, right? And so it's going to impact me. Those are the conversations that we have. I have two boys, and so it's going to be their father's white. His conversations on how we raise them is going to be different than if I were married to a black man.
okay. Well, again, thank you for
Correcting you.
well, Thank you for
Educating you, holding you down, being a Black woman. Is that what you're saying?
say again, give an inch and you take a mile. Um, I think from that standpoint, there are some things that Black men can learn from, and it is true that it is typically Black men that date outside of our races or elect to be with someone outside of our races, and Black women traditionally have not done that. So, in a lot of ways, you don't see it, especially with Black women, with respect to dating outside the race. And so when you have someone like a Ryan Clark and a Ryan and our RG3 having that conversation, it can magnify the larger conversation that we need to have as a culture with respect to, okay, who has the card and how can your Black card be restricted? You don't have one traditionally.
Well, it's not you don't. It's not that we're
No,
restricting your
you don't
Black
have one.
card.
You don't have
I
one
heard
anyway.
you. I'm
So,
actually
so, so,
ignoring you. So
so,
it's you're not. No one's taking your Black card away. We're just saying before you invoke your Black card, think.
mm,
Think about everything that you're bringing to this conversation and why you're bringing it to the conversation. Just to go back to the meme that you posted, and
mm,
because you're married to who you are, it can be a perception that
mm.
you are saying, I elected to be over here because you guys are crazy, you're loud, you're whatever. Hopefully everybody marries the individual because they love them, whatever.
But
Hopefully.
hold on. I think it's a deeper thing. I think having a conversation with someone who elects to marry someone of another race because they genuinely like them and love them is different from what it is that we saw with RG3. There is,
So that
I'm
you're
sorry.
making an assumption. How do you know?
Because when you talk about the fact that you can't wait to have to be with and have a drink of this tall white glass of milk,
Well, I would hope somebody says that they can't wait to have a drink of this
yeah,
tall, whatever, chocolate milk.
yeah, there's and that's been a running commentary of his with respect to
Yes.
how he's describing his wife or the people that he is, it's always
Mhm.
so there's something that's going on there that he has to,
Maybe.
and
It could
so.
be.
Right. And so there's that self-hatred that
Mm.
I don't have a problem with anyone marrying anyone of another race. I have a significant problem with a person only choosing to date someone of another race.
A
And
problem with that
that
too.
is what I perceive with him. Um, there was another incident that I wanted to get your take on, um, and hope that you have an educated opinion on,
Wow.
because you're
You
not.
just,
I know you're not the most savvy pop
oh,
person.
no.
So anyway, so Denzel Washington was at the Cannes Festival. Is it Cannes or Cannes? I say Cannes. At the Cannes Festival this week. And there was a photographer as he was doing the line. There was a photographer who grabbed his arm to pull him over to get his attention, either to take a picture or to ask him a question. And Denzel got a little animated and said, "Stop it, stop," because the guy did it a couple of times.
Sure.
And I'm like, what is it with some of these people, white folk, and this happened with Kelly Rowland at, I believe,
Mm.
the Met Gala or something a couple months ago, where and she may have been in France or something, but there was this white woman who had put hands on her and was trying to usher her in, and I'm like, when did we get to the point where people are thinking it's okay to put hands on you? And I'm like, if you see Tom Cruise
Mm.
walking in the line, are you going to grab him and pull him over? And maybe they are, and I'm not
I don't know
seeing
that.
those pictures, but I'm like, wow, do you feel so comfortable in yourself that you feel that you can grab someone to get their attention? And again,
Hmm.
it may have been an innocent thing, but the
Yes.
way that the culture took it was yet again another one of those microaggressions where respect to personal space. And Denzel, to his credit, didn't lose his cool, and he continued to go about the business of why he was there, and he didn't
Hmm.
let that damage the event for him. But it's like, are we now in this age of, individuals not giving a fuck
I
that,
think that we're now in this age. I think that's always the case, right? And so our personal space is their space. And I can remember when I was pregnant and having people come and touch my belly. And I do not remember one Black person ever invading my space. Or when I was nursing, that and people would come and like, oh my gosh, you're nursing. No Black person ever did it, but a white person felt very comfortable commenting on me nursing. And yes, I live in Austin, so we can nurse in public, and I would do it fully. It's great.
yeah,
And so I just don't think it's a new phenomenon. I think that, and I can't speak to this journalist, obviously. He may do it to everyone. I don't know that. But I do think that there is a certain comfort level that I can invade your space because I don't assign the same value to you that I would to a Tom Hanks or a Tom Cruise.
hmm. Yeah, that's something
What
that
are you going to do? Because we as Black people usually will say, "Oh, that's okay. We won't make a big scene because we know that there are other things at stake." Because if we do make a big scene, especially as a Black woman, now I'm an angry Black woman. It's not the fact that you grabbed me, but now the narrative becomes I'm an angry Black woman. A white woman would just say something, and we know that. How do you turn a disagreement into a war? A upset white woman that's crying. They're not going to do that.
oh Jesus.
It's the truth.
Well,
You can have a little,
no,
yeah.
I mean, look, again, I take your point. The issue I think is for me, the lack of respect that you just don't put your hands on someone.
You don't do it to anybody, but I think that there is a level of comfort just because of the value that's assigned to us. And I mean, we'll
Hold
continue
on,
having
but
convert.
is it that or is it a cultural thing? Because I think both of
Mhm.
these incidences happened in Europe, and I could be mistaken about the Kelly Rowland thing, but they happened in Europe, and I've not spent a lot of time in Europe. But is it more in your face there
No. It's
than
actually not. The interesting thing about that is I've been to France a couple of times and people they just go about your business. They don't interact with you the way that that people do in America. Like they just don't. And so that is I don't think it's a cultural thing. I think it's worth exploring, but I don't think so.
we need to have
My
some
ex
white people. We need to have some white people on to talk about whether or not white people from Europe to talk about whether or not it's a cultural thing.
Okay,
Uh,
John, let's go find them.
but I mean,
Because
that's
well, we're almost out of time, so I'll just go out there and see if
that's
I can find some.
after you've been embarrassed on this first episode of
Oh wow. I take your point.
yes. Um so I mean with respect to that, that was something that was it was just a big week of big news. Obviously, you had, that going on with Khan. You had the issue with RG3 and RC going on. You had POTUS Biden obviously
Mm,
giving information about his health, and that is something that we can discuss in another episode. And then you had the shit show. I refuse to name, the current office of the POTUS, call him by his name. So I said the shit show because that encompasses everything that's going on and, the big, beautiful bill and all those things that are happening right now. Um, there's just so much going on. The focus, I hope, of the conversations that you and I have is to talk about events of relevance to the culture, to have you give the white person's perspective, and to have me speak from the common sense
And
perspective.
I'm going to reserve my comment until after this podcast and what I want to call you.
Oh, okay. Uh, and
What a
and since we're new to this and still figuring some things out, I take your point.
Mhm.
And
Well, maybe we'll change it to that. I take your point. You should because you took
uh,
every single one of my points. I don't recall saying that other than being facetious with you, but again, so I won this one. We'll agree that I won this debate. I
yeah,
love it so much.
well, you know
I
what?
love this journey for us.
We'll let the audience decide. and
Well,
they
I
can
mean,
they can decide who won this.
65% Black women.
Who
I
won,
won, so thank you.
who won episode one, round one? You know, is it
Well,
is it the hater or
the hater. Okay.
so again, the purpose was to make certain that we had the white perspective coming from you, and
Okay, John.
then the common man, Renaissance man,
Oh, wow.
every
Okay.
refined,
Mhm. Hmm. So when are we going to find that person?
talented tenth,
Okay,
uh,
so
us
again, so
kids.
I need to go find a guest to do this
Well,
thing.
again, because you don't appreciate the finer things in life.
Oh,
Uh,
wow. I am the finer thing in life.
right.
So of course I appreciate it.
All right. And so the hope is that the conversation will spark additional conversations in your circles, because they're important conversations.
Yeah.
And we want to make certain that we're having these conversations amongst friends, amongst individuals who are not yet friends and could be friends. And so at the end of the day, the hope is that you learn something and that you become a better person because you've listened and given us the minutes that we've taken of your time. You don't have to listen, but again, we're glad that you do. And I do appreciate you, Miss Lynn, for inviting individuals in to understand that there's not one way to be black, and your way of being your your way of being black is even though it's not,
Shady one, aren't you?
look, we're all a work in progress and God is working on us.
Well, Johnny, I appreciate this conversation with you. I always enjoy talking to you. I'm always happy to be a resource of information for you and to teach you and to make you a better person. And so thank you for giving me the space to allow me to make you a better person.
Again, and with closing, I take your point. I don't agree with most of them, but I do take it. Guys, do something nice for yourself today. And if you can't do something nice for yourself, do something nice for someone else. Until next time, we'll talk to you.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Well, we did it. Episode 1 is in the books. Thanks for coming along for the ride. Join us next time where grown folks disagree with grace and just a little side eye. I would like to thank our executive producer and co-host, John Dunson, audio and video technician, Ryan Sexton, and graphic designer, Ellen Jacobs. Please like, follow, rate, and share, and we appreciate you.